Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer gameplay. This time around I am playing as the Empire against the Dwarves led by Blind Deaf Orphan on the map of Devastation of Ostermark. Decided to run a somewhat interesting build, give it a shot, and yeah, we'll see how it goes down. So as you can immediately see, my build, I have very few troops, only 143 total. And this is definitely not a standard build, definitely a bit of a cheese build. So I want to demonstrate it, discuss how it functions, how to use it, and also how to counter it, potentially. So I'm running Boris Todbringer over here for the regen, also to give me some air cover, because I'm playing against dwarves, give me some terror bombs. He is backed up by a Jade Wizard on a horse because most of my army is cavalry. And then 4 units of Demigryph Knights with lances, normal shock cav variant. No halberds, and because obviously I'm against dwarves, so not useful. A unit of silver bullets. These will shut down any gyrocopters. That's probably the biggest threat I feel to this army is gyrocopters, especially with brimstone guns. So I'm bringing a unit of silver bullets just to shoot those down if worst comes to worst. And then a steam tank for the terror, the near indestructibility, and the ability to shut down enemy artillery. My opponent is running a much more, I think, conventional dwarf build than I am. He's running 4 units of dwarf warriors with great weapons, or actually 5 units of dwarf warriors with great weapons, by the look of it. And then over here he's got a Goblobber, incredibly potent artillery feats, especially against Empire artillery. It can do very good counter battery work, and of course shut down your ranged units with its leadership debuff. Thorgrim Grudgebearer, just for all those buffs, especially to melee attack. Runesmith, once again for those buffs and damage. 2 units of Quarrelers, a unit of Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, 2 units of gyrocopters with brimstone guns, and 2 units of Slayers. So definitely a solid build. And he's kind of cooped up back here in the corner, where I'm going to have a hard time getting to him, at least immediately. So without any further ado, I'm going to start this game up. As you can see, I'm immediately going for the high ground with my Demigryphs. This is a pretty lengthy game, but we will see how this build plays out against dwarves. I'm immediately pushing my steam tank forward just to get shots out. I'm going to roll up. This was the view I was playing with for most of the game. I'm pushing the steam tank up, pushing the silver bullets up to cover the steam tank. And of course pushing Boris forward. If possible, I want to get on top of these gyrocopters, take them out. If I can get 1 or 2 models picked off, that would be ideal. So for now it's mostly posturing, so I'm going to throw things into fast forward. Still just pushing the steam tank up, trying to get it into a position around here where I can take pot shots. As you can see, it does get a shot off, and Boris is chasing off these gyrocopters. It is a bit of a back and forth. I can't really risk going all the way over these Quarrelers, because then Boris would be in trouble. At the same time, my opponent doesn't want to risk pushing Boris too far and then losing a gyrocopter for that. In the meantime, my cavalry is kind of posturing. They're sallying forward, now falling back. I don't want to engage my opponent's entire army head on, because that is a lot of warriors with great weapons. So definitely something I'm a little worried about. In the meantime, though, I'm pushing my silver bullets up over there and trying to get the steam tank around over here to get some shots into my opponent's Goblobber and Quarrelers and all that sort of stuff. Now, Boris Todbringer is actually not fast enough to catch gyrocopters normally. If you pop Foe Seeker, he is just barely quick enough to do so. And with his regen, the gyrocopters with their fairly low DPS are not really going to be able to shut him down. But it is definitely difficult for him to get close. I'm pushing the silver bullets up forward, just to kind of poke at my opponent's gyros. Over here I do pop Foe Seeker just to try to gap close the gyros, and as you can see, my opponent immediately starts falling back. In the meantime, my steam tank has pushed out over here, out on the flank, and shortly we'll be able to open fire on my opponent's archers and artillery and all that sort of stuff. And I am shifting all my Demigryphs, all my cavalry over here, because I see these Slayers coming from my steam tank. And of course, both the Slayers will do very solid work against the steam tank. They don't have the greatest amount of armor piercing, but they do have enough, especially with the bonus against large, to hurt the steam tank pretty seriously. And it's not really able to kill them too efficiently. Over here, the Goblobber is coming in, hitting my Demigryph Knights, hurting them a little bit, demoralizing them, but it's nothing too severe. Definitely something they can overcome and generally outmaneuver. Now my opponent realizes that Slayers are in danger and starts to pull back, but I'm not going to allow them to escape if I can. They've definitely overextended, and so I'm diving down on them with Boris, just trying to slow them down as much as I can, and then hit them with the cavalry and deal with them. Meantime, silver bullets are all falling back. Now, because dwarf units are fairly slow, except for the gyrocopters, I am able to kite back with the silver bullets fairly consistently. Brimstones are not good against silver bullets, or infantry in general, especially not light infantry like this. As you can see over here, I do lose some Demigryphs. I popped Stand Your Ground, but I haven't bothered casting a Earthblood. That's actually the only spell I brought in the Jade Wizard, and I haven't actually bothered casting it. Unfortunately, these gyrocopters do come over top of me, and my silver bullets are not in position to interdict. So my opponent does get a bombing run off on the Demigryphs, but that's okay. I've got Earthblood cast now, and it's healing him up. And in the meantime, my opponent's Slayers are slowly just simply getting overrun. And the silver bullets now have a nice clear shot on these gyrocopters. They shoot one down. My opponent is going to charge into my silver bullets. Definitely take a few models down. But Boris is on his way over to help. And the Demigryphs over here are simply just mopping the floor with these poor Slayers. Slayers are not... They are strong against large, but against cycle charging and against Lord of Life support Demigryphs, especially because they have so much armor, they won't do the best of jobs. They'll definitely struggle a bit. My silver bullets did take a few models, 7 models lost, but nothing tragic. In the meantime, these Slayers are being overwhelmed. But these guys have actually gained a chevron, I think, which is pretty impressive in such a short space of time, despite only getting 1 kill. But now it's basically game for them. They're surrounded. They're getting whittled down. At this point, I've left the Jade Wizard to deal with them, because they have fairly low melee defense, and I don't want to lose any more Demigryphs if I can avoid it. So I'm going to fall back, try to wipe out this Goblobber, and then cycle back to deal with the Slayers. As you can see over here, Boris is getting sniped away at by a combination of gyros and the Quarrelers, but he's able to retreat, and this gyrocopter is down to 2 models and very low HP. Slayers are almost overwhelmed. Silver bullets are coming up to just mop them up. There's only a handful of them, 5 of them total at this point. And the Jade Wizard is definitely doing an okay job mopping them up without taking too much damage. He's obviously not the best contributor to late game damage. I do throw Boris in there, simply to just finish these guys off. They're not doing too much to my Jade Wizard. He's not doing too much back, but with Boris in there and the silver bullets, it should be pretty quick. My opponent does once again push these gyrocopters. He's being very cheeky with these gyrocopters, definitely being a bit frustrating. But with the silver bullets there to keep suppressing these gyrocopters, I'm definitely able to keep them on the back foot and just deal with him that way. Slayers are almost finished off, though still taking a little while. Boris flies over the edge here, and as you can see, finally he does take quite a bit of a volley there from the gyros and the Quarrelers, so he's loses quite a bit of HP, but pops Foe Seeker, gets out, and it's been just a sort of back and forth for a while now. My opponent sometimes pushes forward with the gyrocopters, I poke back with the silver bullets, and it's kind of just a constant back and forth. Over here, though, he does push forward a little bit too far, I think, and starts getting hammered by the silver bullets. Of course, I am under fire from missiles, but I do pop an Earthblood just to keep him intact. And these gyros are forced to flee with about half of their HP left. The steam tank, in the meantime, is pushing around the flank here, but once again, the steam tank, despite being it doesn't really lose much energy for firing, and or maybe not even any energy, and it is quick enough to outrun the dwarven infantry if they come for it. Same with the silver bullets. That's important to consider, that silver bullets can outrun dwarven infantry for days, even when winded, because dwarven infantry is just that slow, except for Slayers, of course, but that is what the heavy cav and the tank and all that are there for. I think about running up the ramp. My opponent does still have this unit of Warriors of Dragonfire Pass up there, gyrocopters, so I do want to be a little careful. But because the Squirrelers are already getting spread out, there's this unit over here still repositioning, this unit over here not really in a position to fire. I dive Boris in to go after this gyrocopter, and then go after his friends over here. My opponent mismicros a little bit here, loses track of his gyrocopters, and is losing them one by one, simply getting torn apart by Boris. In the meantime, the steam tank is simply just running a victory lap around the map, coming around the other way, same with the silver bullets. And unfortunately, 2 of the gyrocopters do escape, and I'm not really going to be able to pursue them. But I pop Foe Seeker on Boris, and pull back a little bit from the Quarrelers. But at this point, I'm deciding to charge the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. Boris does come in for a rear charge. They're not immune to psychology, and they are facing the wrong direction. So even though they will be braced against Demigryphs, they won't be braced against Boris, and they are routing almost immediately, especially with the terror on them. And they melt very, very quickly here. Under the attack from 4 Demigryph units, Boris, and Jade Wizard, they simply don't stand a chance. My silver bullets are still repositioning, still trying to move over here. The steam tank is still trying to catch up with my army. It's actually leveled up, gained a chevron somehow. And I'm pushing boards forward, trying to deal with these gyrocopters. My opponent, once again, loses track of them for a little bit. And if you lose track of your gyrocopters for just the tiniest amount, then allow the enemy flying lord to get on top of them, you're absolutely doomed. Now, the Rune of Wrath and Ruin does go down, but the Rune of Wrath and Ruin is not particularly good against units with lots of high HP models. And I'm trying to chase the gyrocopter down, finish it off once and for all, never have to deal with it again. And so I finally get close enough. I think, actually, I might be able to pull away from Boris. He's not the fastest, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be able to get away, though it is broken. So I'm pulling back here, allowing my steam tank to take the front. The Demigryphs are having a little bit of a pathing issue, trying to get around it. But against Thorgrim, who lacks armor piercing, and against all those units, because it is a percentage damage reduction, steam tank will do very well. And as you can see, it's ignoring these guys pretty effectively. And now I pushed the Demigryphs up the hill with the support of the Jade Wizard, and they will be able to start surrounding Thorgrim and co. and start overwhelming them. In the meantime, the Silver Bullets are actually doubling back around this way. I was hoping to catch these gyrocopters, shut them down for good, and unfortunately Boris hadn't been able to catch them. I'm moving Boris back to my main army, flying over these Quarrelers. The Quarrelers are being sitting around doing nothing really. They probably don't have the best of shots. I do dive Boris down on them, just trying to time down, deal with them. In the meantime, though, this steam tank is holding, and once again I pop an Earthblood. I haven't really been casting too many overcast Earthbloods. Those are definitely a strong option, but I've either not had the wins most of the time, or simply, or it's been a situation. Of course, my opponent is popping all his runes, so he's going to be very tanky, especially with the mix of Stand Your Ground, Rune of Negation, and Rune of Oath and Steel. He's going to be very strong, especially against all these. It's definitely going to reduce the AP damage there. Now I'm trying to get Boris up in the air, popping Foe Seeker. In the meantime, this gyrocopter is finally getting shut down by all these silver bullets. It's broken. I'm not entirely sure if it gets shot down. It does take a few shots. Silver bullets are the handgun units are very accurate, and they actually managed to shoot it down. So there it goes. Still have about 2/3 of my ammo left, so I'm going to push it into the back of these Quarrelers. In the meantime, this cluster is going on. Cluster fight is going on. Demigryphs do lack. Now I overcast an Earthblood. Demigryphs do. They are meant to be shock cavalry, but they will do just fine in extended melee. They have decent melee defense, very solid melee attack, and with the heals in there, just backing them up, they'll just do very well. The steam tank, as you can see, just shoving Dwarf warriors left and right, pushing them back, and of course, it is a constant source of terror. So one slip up, one break, and my opponent could potentially start chain routing, even though he's dwarves. Boris over here has it as a reeling cap, which is definitely a bit of a problem, but I'm diving him down on the Quarrelers, and this unit of silver bullets is pushing into the back of my opponent's shooting units, just trying to shut them down for good with the help of Boris. And of course, as you can see, my opponent's units are starting to terror out because of the steam tank in there, which is definitely a very strong source of terror. Now, if you're playing against the faction that does bring more large, Royal Outlaw Demis can be a solid choice, but in this situation, I definitely prefer the steam tank for this. Or I definitely prefer the generic Demigryphs and leave all the terror to the steam tank. And as you can see, my opponent's army is completely breaking, and at this point, even Thorgrim breaks. And that's the end of the replay. So a bit of a lengthy game. There was quite a bit of back and forth poking. I was trying to get rid of those gyrocopters because they were the biggest threat to my army. And as you can see, that was quite a bit of cheese. I won't sugarcoat it. Definitely a cheesy build from Empire, or from my Empire build there. And very effective. Now, how to counter it? That's a whole nother bit of that's a whole nother problem, and I think that's something that's definitely worth discussing. Obviously, as you can see, Boris did a very good job shutting down the gyrocopters. They got very little done. I think the only kills they got were melee against the silver bullets. Jade Wizard actually has a surprising amount of kills in there. The silver bullets did a great job at shutting down the enemy gyrocopters, very cost efficient, and the Demigryphs, of course, just had a lot of hurt. The steam tank gave me that source of terror and a huge source of tankiness that was simply not possible for my opponent to rout off the field or anything like that. It gave me a very strong linchpin in battles that I was engaging in the running skirmishes. So against this, my opponent did bring a lot of armor piercing with Thorgrim and the Runesmith, some Quarrelers, the gyrocopters with brimstone guns, Goblobber Slayers, who actually ended, despite being caught out pretty bad, actually ended up doing some of the most damage in that game. I think it's definitely important, and definitely struggle to deal with my comp. And I think the first and foremost thing you have to do in dealing with a cheese strat like this is to not separate your army. The fact that these Slayers got isolated from my main force meant that they got immediately swarmed by the Demigryphs and wiped out very quickly with very minimal losses, thanks to the healing from the Jade Wizard. How my opponent stayed much, and similarly the Gyrocopters ended trying to poke in and out against the Silver Bullets, ended up getting caught out and sniped down slowly by the Silver Bullets and Boris charging him. Another important thing is, of course, and there are plenty of different variations of this build. There's builds with lighter Empire Cav. I've done builds against Orcs, for example, with Empire Knights in there as well, on top of Demigryphs and Royal Griffites and that sort of thing, and builds with Reichsguard I've seen, and that sort of thing. So there are definitely alternative builds of this, but this is probably one of the most effective, especially in this sort of situation against dwarves. And so another thing that can really be helpful is units that pick off models. So if you have organ guns or cannons, those can be very solid. Otherwise, using those Gyrocopters with brimstone guns rather than trying to poke at Boris. And of course, Boris is trying to zone him away, but you can push towards your enemy, try to start sniping away at the Demigryphs. For example, you could split your Gyrocopters up so that one unit is distracting Boris, the other unit is trying to pick out the Demigryphs, and that will make it much more difficult for your opponent to deal with you. And definitely don't spread out your slow units, because they will get isolated and they will get picked apart, because this is an incredibly mobile build. There are other sorts of this kind of flying or running around goon squad of heavy cav is possible for a handful of other factions. Although I don't think anybody can, like Bretonia, for example, with Grail Guardians, Questing Knights, and that sort of stuff, but it's nowhere near as effective as Demigryphs, because Demigryphs have very high HP per unit model, and they have very low model count, which makes them ideal for comboing with the Jade Wizard. So definitely units that can pick off models are very strong in this sort of situation, and not spreading your army out too much is also significant. Making sure that you're able to support, all your units are able to support each other at all times. So definitely, hope a bit of a troll build. Just wanted to demonstrate it and discuss some potential counters. Of course, snares, for example, if you bring Rumbrindle with Smoke Bomb, can also be very effective, because Rumbrindle dishes out a lot of damage and is capable of definitely one-shotting a lot of the Demigryphs and beating off Boris and beating off the Jade Wizard, and definitely tearing through the Steam Tank, actually. So those are definitely some other good options. So I definitely hope this helped you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like or subscribe down below. If you have any comments, criticism, any requests for a future build, do feel free to share those down in the comments, and I will be sure to respond as soon as I can. I appreciate you all for watching, and bye for now.